It's June 10th, 2018. You're listening to Fancy Ramen. I'm Neil.
I'm not recording.
Oh.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
And this episode of Fancy Ramen, we're going to be talking a little bit about some pre-E3 nonsense, or more notably,
Pre-3.
The EA press conference, which already happened on Saturday. It's currently Sunday roughly Sunday morning if you're looking at Pacific time. So we won't be talking about Xbox or anything else, really. But yeah, let's get started with it. What have you guys been up to this week?
I just had a wedding yesterday for my cousin, so I'm a little sleep deprived.
Oh, I
tired.
didn't realize you were dating your cousin.
I know, right? I was going to make that same joke.
Ha ha. No, I'm not dating my cousin.
You're married
got
to her
married
now.
Yesterday.
Or to him.
Nope,
I'm not
to
going to
him.
assume.
Ooh, you're
Let's
so
be
progressive.
inclusive.
Such a progressive robot, Scott.
You're super conservative in one aspect and super progressive in the other.
Yeah.
Because obviously you need to keep the robot human genetics pure, so you have to marry within the family. Conservative. And progressive because it's same gender.
Yeah.
Same assigned gender because robots get assigned genders, I'm assuming.
That's right. You just look down at your model number printed where your genitals should be, and it tells you, it lets you know.
So in Detroit Become Human, we're basically told that there are I guess there are male robots at Eden Club as well. So we can assume that there are androids that have both sexual organs or genitalia. But my question is, if you're not assigned the role of a sex robot,
Do you even get them?
yeah, exactly. Because it seems at that point
Seems like you
Superforce.
shouldn't. Yeah, it seems like you probably shouldn't.
But I think you probably do. Because, you want to be discreet for your more freaky customers who don't want to be outed like that.
So does that mean that if you go up to the Android Best Buy that you see at the start of the game, that all of the androids are basically equipped with that type of stuff?
This is an ethical quandary.
Maybe not at the Best Buy, but maybe it's just attached right before shipping.
It's do you want to add a special realism feature for $500?
For another $5,000, we'll make it shit.
I guess they have
You'll
to
totally
fit that.
forget it's a robot.
Yeah, they have to make that into a what am I trying to say? That has to be a thing, right? Because people are into that, so there's probably a robot designed to fill that fetish.
Man, I don't like this.
Anyways, how was the wedding?
The wedding was good. It unfortunately took place outdoors for a portion next to a bunch of cottonwood trees, and I'm deathly allergic to cottonwood, and I literally was getting hit in the eyes by those little cotton balls as they were floating through the air, and it was one of the most miserable days I've ever had with allergies, but otherwise the event was fun and went well. It was good to see a lot of family and kind of hang out and relax.
That's good. I'm proud of you. Speaking of weddings, I was celebrating my wedding.
Yeah,
as well.
you were celebrating your anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. I believe it's 5 years.
Yep, you are a very good calculator.
Thank you. It's part of my features.
Or maybe it's just your memory. You happen to save the data when he told us it was his 5th year anniversary.
Yeah, that too. It's
I like
important
this.
to take a multifaceted approach to solving problems.
You have to confirm off of old data. Everything has to be computated in multiple ways.
You meatbags may not take that approach, but I certainly do.
But yeah, me and Lizzie did a couple of weird things. Not weird things, I guess. We did datey things, but we went up to this area out near Midtown-ish for dinner. Actually, not for dinner, for ice cream at this place called Cone something. But it was a 30-minute wait. And honestly, the best ice cream in town.
Wait, was that the? Are you talking about the shaved ice thing?
Nope, Coneflower. Was the
Coneflower?
place that it was called. Yeah, Coneflower Creamery. It's on 3. It's 3921
the
Farnham.
Blackstone district.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. My replacement at the lab on my last day and his first like official day fulfilling my role, I instead of just running around and getting all this paperwork put together, took him on a walk out to Coneflower and bought him an ice cream cone and wished him luck in his new role. And I'm sort of endeared to Coneflower ever since.
So I'm curious, is Coneflower better than Haagen-Dazs?
I don't know about that. I haven't had Haagen-Dazs. Is
fresh?
that just?
I haven't had Haagen-Dazs fresh ever. But if I'm just comparing their ice cream, yeah.
Just like the store-bought? Because
if it's a supermarket thing, Coneflower is probably better.
But Haagen-Dazs, like, depending on the flavors you get, like, it's still hard to find places that are actually better than Haagen-Dazs, in my opinion.
You live in a world with Ted and Wally's.
Yeah, Ted and Wally's is, like, good, but if we're just going to compare, like, it's obviously not fair to compare, like, a Guinness ice cream from Ted and Wally's to a vanilla from Haagen-Dazs. Because that's going
fair.
to be based entirely around, like, your preference and taste. Granted, I understand taste preference between two vanillas is the same way, but like there's something like extremely simple about the Haagen-Dazs recipe that I think is reflected through the taste of their ice cream. And yeah, I mean it's also hard for me to justify at times spending like $6 or $7 on like a dish of ice cream when I can get a pint of that for Haagen-Dazs for $3.99.
That's fair. I just don't know where you're spending that much on ice cream.
That one.
Ted and Wally's. For like a similar
real?
amount, I should say.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I don't think that a single like dish there would come close to that pricing. But if you're saying like pint for pint, that makes sense.
And I mean, like, don't let this be like an argument against Ted and Wally's or other similar places like E Creamery because they all taste fantastic. But
I'm ready to argue.
you don't like Ted and Wally's?
Huh? No, I love Ted and Wally's.
Oh.
I think E Creamery's all right, and I think Coneflower's pretty good.
Yeah, I've had E Creamery.
I love ice cream though. I'm a very easy critic in the ice cream field because ice cream is good.
But sorry to derail from the conversation again. Ice cream is a passionate
fine.
subject for me as well.
Welcome to Fancy Ramen. We're ice cream enthusiasts in disguise as
They're
a,
ice cream enthusiast.
yeah.
I'm just with ice cream. It was our anniversary. That was the only reason I ended up getting anything.
So
What's your favorite?
If you love ice cream, you can submit your application to the podcast at podcast@fancyramen.com to replace this other guy.
You do have to meet our diversity standards and our intense age restrictions. Those are just as a heads up.
It tests
Sweet.
well with the groups. No, sorry,
Yeah.
you were saying?
But yeah, we did that. I'm gonna just include the Japanese whiskey tasting as a part of our anniversary week. We did end up buying some Japanese whiskey.
What'd you pick?
I already forgot. It's been like 3 days since I've looked at the bottle.
Okay.
But yeah, we've been chilling out. We went out to Fuchsa Lake, which is a privately owned lake by my friend Ryan Fuchs's family.
I was just wondering if you were mispronouncing fuchsia.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I've learned how to get a lake named after yourself and how to own a lake as well.
Is it
Dig it out.
be wealthy? Oh yeah, or make it.
Yes, make it is what I've learned.
I think you can also martyr yourself in some way, and hopefully someone notices and names something after you.
Yeah, but then I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to make money off of it.
That's true.
But yeah, besides that, been playing some video games. Completely forgot that E3 was happening yesterday. I could have swore the EA press conference was supposed to be this morning, but oh well.
E3 doesn't technically happen until Tuesday, and so I've actually stayed in the dark till then.
Yeah, it's incredibly ridiculous how E3 has started out as basically a weekend thing years ago or decades ago at this point, and now it's
Now it's a
encompassing more than 2 weeks.
ordeal. Yeah. Now there's
Well,
pre-3, E3, and then post-E3 speculation.
well, the reason I just consider it that is because, Thanksgiving really just starts. No, Black Friday really starts on Thanksgiving Day, so
Yeah,
we might as well
Yeah.
just call everything what it is. And E3 started yesterday.
basically.
I keep my Christmas tree up year-round and just, get prepped for celebration 364 days in advance.
Oh yeah, so we're a podcast about video games and stuff. What you guys been playing?
I've got 2 that I've been putting some time into. Have either of you played a little GTA substitute that takes place in Hong Kong called Sleeping Dogs? I believe this title came out in 2014 or 2015.
I have the definitive edition.
I might too. Actually, I'm curious enough that I'm going to open up Steam and see if I have it there. I played it on the PS4 though when it came out.
Yeah. Well, I played the game. I played a demo of the game when it originally came out on my computer, but at that time I was running a very different capacity and quality computer than what I do now, and so Sleeping Dogs was a little buggy and hard for me to play because of, I think, just graphical issues. And it was recently on sale. I remembered how much I enjoyed the demo, as like clunky and bad of an issue my computer had running it, and decided with my new computer it'd be worth kind of going back and seeing if it was worth the hype that I had for it initially. And I've got to say, I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm about halfway through the game, from what I understand. And it is, I think, such a wonderful alternative to playing a GTA game. It has everything that I enjoy about the GTA games I've played, with the addition of some fun, like environmentally active kung fu fighting and some really like fun story writing that is paired nicely next to the more like serious and somber tones of being an undercover Hong Kong Police Department agent trying to infiltrate the triads. Like it has a really good balance between humor and seriousness.
I would almost say it combines a story in terms of quality like Infernal Affairs. That's a Hong Kong movie about a similar situation, along with the elements of like an old school brawler made modern, all added to the GTA formula.
Yeah, I think that's a very accurate way to describe it. And the racing elements to it too, like they're a small kind of side quest option in the game, but man, I actually really enjoy the racing in this city too. It's a lot of fun. The implementation of just a like ramming button or ramming ability in the game is super cool, as well as that like hijack vehicle option. Those are both like very interesting mechanics to driving, and it's a little campy, sure, but it's a ton of fun to actually utilize in the game.
I could dig it. Yeah. It was a fun playthrough for me.
Yeah,
I don't think I beat it. I'm pretty sure I didn't beat it. 100% sure didn't beat it.
I'll also correct myself. I played it on the PS3, and I do have the definitive edition, so maybe I'll play it again.
Yeah, you should go back and check it out. I think I'm going to finish it up. I'm going to play the 2 DLCs that I got with it, because I believe I got the definitive edition on sale. And I'm just having a blast with it. Like it's a great sandbox to play around in, but the missions are actually quite a bit of fun, and so I've also felt really compelled to continue with the storyline bit by bit.
And for a first attempt, they do a damn good job of making the world feel relatively
Alive?
Yeah, alive. Like in a
Yeah,
way that
it's
GTA
immersive.
3 and 4 really didn't do it for me, and even 5 is kind of lackluster at times.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. They just have this really perfect kind of blend and balance going on. There's a lot of things in the game, and none of them really detract from the entire experience, because they're all of like a solid quality. And especially like the motorbike racing when you're just bouncing around off of other drivers in this like horrible free for all race. You get to see just like the absurdity of the game and this physics engine being pushed to its limit. And then other times you're doing, like some really serious storytelling within a mission or a chapter. And although it's got like that campy kung fu slowed down bullet time action going on in some of the mechanics, you still feel like, say, the pressure of whatever the impetus for you being involved in this mission on completing it correctly and either within the scope of keeping your police officer identity, which is like essentially trying to do the right thing, not harming innocents, not causing any damage to property as much as possible, which I think is a cool handicap or like challenge to add to the game. If you want to get a high police score, you have to play really well, because the more reckless or carefree you play the game or the less controlled, the less of a police score you get, and the easier it is to improve your triad score. So it's also cool balancing between getting involved with the game and like trying to keep your character's identity as a cop by playing the game really well. Otherwise, if you don't play very well, you're slowly like sliding your character's identity further and further into the triad territory. And so I'm interested to see how that ultimately plays out for me in the game.
Do you know if those DLCs, I know one of them is the zombie DLC. Is there a story add-on to the game?
It looks like there is one. There's like Year of the Rooster or something for, I think, the story additional DLC, or there's something else to it. But I know the zombie one is separate to that.
If my connection starts to fade out, don't mind me. I'm just downloading this game.
Okay.
Wow. I like it.
No, I'm actually not, but I will be at some point today.
The other game I've been playing is I have finally returned to Bloodborne. I don't know what motivated me to do so.
It could be detailed later this week when we talk about...
I know. It is kind of partially the hype that there may be a Bloodborne 2 about to be announced. And I've decided to go back...
Tenchu.
Huh?
I'm still going Tenchu. That sounds more exciting for me.
I'm fine with this because I think I have the edge on calling it right here.
Dude, I don't know. Shadows Die Twice is a line that came straight from Tenchu. Tenchu 2 or 3?
Yeah. One of the two.
Like, all right, no, we'll talk about this later. But yeah, Bloodborne. Had you beaten it before, or I can't remember?
No. And that was the other thing, too. Your harassment about me finally beating the game.
That's right.
It might have sunk in. But, it might have been that Sierra brought something up about it. Or, no, that's what it was. Talking to, actually, it was talking to you, Neil, about Tiffany getting into playing a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne game. And Sierra will never have the, I think, interest to build the skills to actually play those games successfully, but she likes watching them. So I decided to go back and play Bloodborne with Sierra watching. And I like returning to a game after a long rest period and doing a lot better at it than I had done previously before. I've gotten right into the mix. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm just trying to kind of fly through the game as fast as possible for the areas that I know. And then, that was the other thing too, is that Cookie was also talking about it. It's been on my mind in a multitude of conversations. So I'm getting into it. I don't know how I'm going to build my character, though. I'm just like pumping stats into health and stamina and a little bit into like strength, dex, and arcane. I don't think I'm going to go for blood tinge on this playthrough. Like, that's the only thing I know I'm not going to get.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know how it goes when I actually get into something of interest to talk about, like the Old Hunters DLC.
I still have yet to play that. I
know,
really
and there's a lot of cool weapons apparently in that. I think the ultimate build that I want to do is get the like Holy Moonlight Sword or the Moonlight Greatsword or whatever that is.
there's also a shield that comes into it as well, which seems almost counter to Bloodborne's methodology, I guess.
Mythos, yeah. Well, because the only shield that existed before then was the plank shield, and the explanation for the plank shield, I think, is pretty fair, that it just doesn't have the reinforcement to handle the power of the beasts, and that's why it's a shitty item.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense because other enemies use the shield at the very beginning of the game, and you can pretty much like break their guard after 2 strikes, depending on what weapon you have.
Man, revisiting Bloodborne would be fun too.
It's a great game, Neil. You should play it sometime.
There's a lot of I think the story in that is ever more enticing than Dark Souls, purely from the fact that it's not medieval crazy darkness and more I don't want to go too far into it in case you haven't reached like the conclusion of what you're encountering, but there's a lot of mystery in Bloodborne.
I already know the ultimate ending of the game, like the secret boss and whatnot. So
but the boss before the secret boss, that's one of my favorite boss battles in any games. So I mean, getting the items necessary for the quote unquote secret ending is good and nice, but it does not take away, like, you not getting those items still allows you to play against the best boss in the game.
Okay, that's cool. And I actually don't know if I remember all of that info, so that's good. I just remember up to this point that like Bloodborne really worked well as like this progressional descent into madness as you go from like a smoky kind of dusk into a dark night and then into this weird like twilight realm in how the environments are changing and things are becoming more and more distorted. Yeah. It's a cool game. I love the design aesthetic, and I'm actually really enjoying the gameplay more than I remembered. So,
and then you also have the whole aspect of what insight does to you, and the question of what actually is insight.
What should I carry for my insight numbers? Because last time when I played the game, I was carrying way too much insight, like 50 or something, and just instantly becoming frenzied in contact with some enemies that do it just by like looking at you. But I know that there's a threshold I need to overcome to see things.
Yeah, I think the threshold is 20 in order to, I could be wrong, but to kind of clue Cookie in on this, there is a value, I guess you could almost even say a currency, because you can use it in the shop, called insight. Yeah. And insight can be obtained through the discovery of items as well as some other things, and it can also be stripped away from you from certain enemies. But once you get to a certain point with insight, the surroundings that you're in, the environment actually changes and becomes more morbid, and actually you start to see things.
You see what's hidden.
You see hidden elements of what's actually on enemies as well. Now, like, this technically works as a mechanic that once you get to a certain point of insight, certain enemies also get more abilities against you. But it's kind of like the idea of that you're now able to see all that is within the world.
Oh, I actually have a question regarding this. I've recently returned to the Cathedral Ward during the nighttime, so it's post beating Amelia. And I'm encountering those, like, Cathedral Ward, basic church... The church people with their lanterns and their canes, they're invisible. I cannot see them. Like, I see their health bars and I can target them, but I cannot see them. And so I can't tell when they're going to make attacks based on anything but the sound or the like indicators of them casting spells. And it is impossible. And I think it's bullshit. And I can't tell if it's a bug or if it's a feature.
I don't know, like, because I've never let my insight get so high that I was having frenzy issues. I would also note that in terms of frenzy, the best practice is to just find the outfit with the most frenzy resist.
Absolutely, yeah. But, it's like the Ashen Hunter set or something.
I definitely always spend my insight down to that point, that whatever that threshold was, buying, all of the extra hunters outfits from that special shop?
I don't have a lot though right now. Like I'm still at a pretty early stage of the game post Amelia. Like I haven't fought the 3 ring wraiths at the bottom of the swamp yet or anything like that. So I'm only at like 21, 22 insight, but they're invisible and it's bullshit and I don't understand it.
That seems like a bug to me, but
I don't know. I was telling Cookie this before we were recording that unfortunately it's a From Software game, and so they pull shit like that and they make sense of it in a way that has me worried that it is actually a portion of the game and I have somehow made something more difficult for myself, or I'm at a different stage in the timeline than I had really approached previously in the game.
Nice.
I can tell you something. So I don't recall this at all, but apparently you need to find an item that allows you to see these enemies, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But I don't maybe I picked up this item willy-nilly, through my playthrough before going back to the Cathedral Ward. Dude, this game's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's obtuse in the best possible ways.
Man, yeah. I'll have to. I need to do a cane. What is it? The cane whip?
Yeah, it's I don't remember what it's called exactly. It's the trick cane, but
if I do the threaded cane, if I do another
Threaded
playthrough,
cane, yeah.
I'll do that. I'll use that only.
If I let Sierra pick character options for almost any game, she chooses the highest skill cap option possible without knowing it. When we went to play Bloodborne, she obviously picked the threaded cane option first. And I was like, I've done a couple of these and it's really hard and I've enjoyed it, but I want to try a different weapon. She's like, okay, we'll do something else. But previous to that, we had played Dark Souls and she's like, we're going to do the thief. And I was like, okay, a bandit's knife. Lovely. We're going to parry everything and dodge because we are not blocking with this shield and we are not doing any damage if we don't backstab. So I'm ready for a fun time. Are you?
Oh, yeah. Holy crap. This is going to be a rough playthrough already.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, well, besides our gothic medieval beat 'em up that we adore so much, I know Cookie's been playing a beat 'em up that has a very similar design aesthetic, and I'd really like to hear about that next.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. So I am playing a game whose main character is your favorite Chinese orphan with a convoluted backstory, Shaq Foo. That's right. You heard it right. Shaq Foo.
Shacky Chan.
So it is the new remake to the old Sega Genesis classic, that classic 2-player fighting game that beat 'em up, that beautiful, beautiful masterpiece, also called Shaq Fu. This was an Indiegogo thing, apparently, that they were like, oh yeah, let's just remake Shaq Fu. Let's see if people will pay for this. And they did. I ended up getting this copy for free because I ended up buying this game called NBA Hoops or NBA Playgrounds for the Nintendo Switch. And it had a very, very rough launch. So they were like, hey, sorry guys, when Shaq Fu comes out, you get that for free. And I was like, okay. So I downloaded Shaq Fu when it came out on Tuesday and was like, okay, let's just play through this, see how this is going to turn out. Hopefully they brought the 2-player modes back so I can, fight Lizzie or something. They did not. But to get into my pseudo review in progress, the game is very aware of itself and feels like it's almost surprised that it actually was funded. So one of the main characters, Master Yi, who trains Shaq when he washes up on China in a suitcase. Yep, random suitcase. He's like, hey Shaq, you need to defeat these people. And Shaq's like, Master Yi, why do you keep leaving every time enemies show up? He's like, because you don't want to watch your master get his ass beat. Plus, the Indiegogo campaign didn't raise enough money for my combat pack. It does little things like, during the tutorial, it said, move with the left stick, and then in parentheses goes, duh. There are lots of weird ads in the game. So, like, one of the ones is every time Master Yi says Gold Bond, he says he gets paid for saying it. So he's been like, he says it a lot of times before he dies, and there's a little cash register scene. And the reason he keeps saying Gold Bond is because he gave Shaq a gold bond to get to America so he can beat a Justin Bieber-like character up and kill him because he's a demon, apparently. Icy Hot, whenever you collect that, it restores 100% of Shaq's health. And he always says something weird like, Icy Hot. It's so cool and refreshing, yet spicy.
I fucking love the self-awareness of these jokes so much.
Yeah, no, it's very weird. One of the boss that I just got done beating, I'm 99% done with the game. I'm on the second from the final level on that boss battle right now. But the boss before that was this chick that you're calling Crystal, who kind of looks like, oh gosh, I forget what the like white star is, like a Kim Kardashian type character whose butt literally ate a taco right before you kind of go up to the character. And one of her things that she says, she's going to twerk you to death. So, and then she becomes this giant, just literally a floating butt monster that you have to then fight. Let's go here. But yeah, so the story's kind of really weird, and the story knows it's weird because at the very beginning, Shaq quite literally says, "My story is convoluted and full of plot holes, so pay attention." And he's like, I washed up on the shores of China where Master Yi found me. And you see this little black baby pop out of a suitcase, literally floating in the ocean. As Master Yi's like, his ghost comes back about halfway through the game. And Shaq's like, what am I supposed to do? And Master Yi goes, I'm here, Shaq. I've always been with you. And Shaq goes, who's my mother? He's like, I have no idea, but we'll find out by the end of the game. And it's just little things like that. So far, it's a fairly competent, straightforward beat 'em up. You can select your difficulties, and it kind of makes fun of you no matter which difficulty you select. The easy mode is like, it says like, don't be a little bitch or something. Normal says, okay, it's a normal mode. You won't really have to do that much trying. And hard says, okay, you might break a sweat. I'm playing on normal, and yeah, it was kind of easy. But this last boss that I've been fighting, I've fought him like 3 times. You don't get that much versatility, but his combos are always, you always want to end them with his size 22 boot. So it's quite literally a separate button where a giant phantom foot comes out as well and kicks in whatever direction his combo was going to be kicking in the next one. It's very aware and very stupid. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that sounds awesome. You'll have to let me know when you beat Secret Boss Kobe Bryant.
Oh my God, I really hope so. I didn't see Kobe's name in the whatchamacallits, but I am in the credits, but I am hoping. Scott asked me before we started recording, he's like, I really hope that Shaq is actually doing the voicing for this. And
he is.
He is. I went through the credits, but like when you're in the menus, it's very 90s-esque rap, but Shaq is rapping. And it's beautiful, and it's the worst. So far, a very good buy for free. I don't know how much money this game actually cost. I'm actually kind of curious now. Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn, $19.99 on Steam. I would not pay that much money for it. You get a couple of different power-ups. One is called Diesel Shaq, where he quite literally turns into like a robot that has the big D on his chest plate. And then he also turns into a cactus, where he's like, who the fuck wrote this game? I'm a giant cactus now. It's dumb. It's real dumb. I like it.
And the cactus suit is great too. I was just looking through some images for the game, and I was trying to find
looks like
Shaq on screen, and I was like, I don't see Shaq, but there's this giant oh shit. Shaq is the giant cactus.
Shaq is literally wearing a cactus suit, just like, cheap going through like the what's the Halloween store?
Which one? Nobby's?
Spirit, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, Spirit Halloween. The pop-up one where you're just like, oh yeah, now Shaq just pretty much shopped at Spirit Halloween, found the only costume that would fit him, a giant cactus, and called it a day. Oh man, Shaq Foo, a legend reborn. So besides me spending my nights, 15 minutes of playing a little bit of Shaq Fu, I also got Beat Saber, and for our 5-year anniversary, even though it is a wood anniversary, Lizzie allowed me to buy a green screen and a lighting kit. And with that, I have been playing Beat Saber, the aforementioned Jedi game that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. And I'm able to record it in using mixed reality using a third-party program called Live and Live Viver. So I'm getting used to that, and in order to remove the Live watermark from their mixed reality program, you have to join their Discord. So I joined the Discord to get everything removed, and in doing so, I also found their modding community. Because I was always curious. It's like, oh yeah, how are these people getting their own like songs, different songs in this, and they're getting like different sabers to fight with. So instead of just using, regular blue Jedi saber and a red Jedi saber, some people have like Kirito's swords from Sword Art Online, just random katanas. So I ended up finding their modding community on Discord, and yeah, they're actually a friendly little bunch. They've got constant updates to their modding tools that they're using, so I am currently working on inserting my own custom songs into Beat Saber to play, and I'm also going to want to get into a little more 3D modeling so I can get my own sabers in there as well. That's what I've been up to video game wise.
Real question here. Now that you have a green screen and you can do augmented VR video, when are we going to see you play Summer Lesson?
How much is Summer Lesson?
I don't know that. I don't know enough for this joke.
Well, it's not even on what you call it.
Yeah, I think it's just PlayStation VR. I also don't think it's been translated to English, ported. But if you look up Summer Lesson on Google, the first hit comes up from Polygon, an article titled "Summer Lesson is the scariest VR experience I've ever had."
Wow.
Scarier than PT in VR.
As soon as it comes to the Vive and Neil ends up buying it so that way I can do it in mixed reality.
I don't think it's ever going to make that jump.
Are you sure? They're no longer banning any kind of content.
Vive and Steam are separate entities, though, and we'll get to that. But I guess technically the distribution is not something that Vive necessarily cares about. I mean, Summer Lesson wouldn't necessarily be banned on would never have been banned on Steam before, since there's technically nothing adult about it. It's just kind of weird when you think about what the point of Summer Lesson VR is. And I guess as for me, I beat Majora's Mask this week, and later this week there will be an episode or like a mini. It's a special episode, I guess, detailing my chronicles.
Is it an omake?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess you could. I don't even know if I want to, don or use the coveted term omake for Majora's Mask, because I don't think it's very special.
Damn.
This guy. It's only a preview to how that episode goes.
Well, I look forward to listening to it.
Aside from that, I played some more Fire Emblem. That was nothing
Fire
new
Emblem
to note
Fates?
there. Fire Emblem Fates, yes. I'm
Yeah.
still on the birthright path. Before we hit news up, though, I did want to correct myself. So I think I was mistaken when you were talking about the invisible enemies you spoke of in the Cathedral Ward. I thought you were talking about but
Amygdalas?
yeah, the amygdalas.
No, I'm aware of those and getting the tonsil stone, which I already have, and I just haven't encountered one of them yet. I mean, I know where they're at. I just haven't let them pick me up and murder me.
Yeah, so I don't remember the church servants ever going invisible. Like, that seems very...
They're straight up invisible, but they're not untargetable, and everything else about them seems to stay the same. They don't appear. Even the target or cursor is obviously still focused around their center of mass. You just can't see it.
They're luckily like the easiest enemies to parry in the game too. They have such a huge windup, and you're able to get the parry shot off at any point when they're winding up for their attack.
But you don't know if you've landed the parry shot necessarily. And when there's two of them in a group, it's very hard to tell where each one is at without switching quickly back and forth.
So isn't there a sound indication when you get a parry? It's
like a ka-chunk sound.
Yeah, it's super satisfying.
But yeah, the wind up is super difficult because you don't know when they start winding up.
That's true.
Because
you
can't see them. Yeah.
I
And when there's more than one, it's especially hard. When there's one, it's manageable, I think, because you can still hear like sort of the groans, and then so you know, like, for the next 2 seconds, I don't want to be standing where I was just standing, and then I want to return to that and start striking. But when there's two of them and one of them has projectile attacks, it's not a fair fight. It's not even close to a fair fight.
I legit think that's a bug because I don't remember those ever going invisible.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a bug. We'll see what happens after I restart my PlayStation and maybe play a little bit later today or tomorrow.
Before we get into the EA press conference, we got a bit of news that is definitely worth talking about. First off, as a quick aside, Hitman 2 was announced. Maybe that's pre-E3 news, but this is being published and distributed by WB Games, developed by IO Interactive. And this is a follow-up to the fact that IO Interactive was able to retain its independence or regain its independence after there were rumors of Sony basically selling the company off.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, this is just a huge win-win. Like, Hitman was a fun game. It wasn't necessarily like a masterpiece in a lot of people's eyes, but lots of fun to have with that game. And a company is able to become independent and keep its IP. And on top of everything, Hitman 1 was episodic. Hitman 2 is not going to be episodic, and I believe it's coming out in November. So
cool.
I'm super excited for that. Lots of fun, weird, dumb stuff that you can do in those games. In addition, or rather on a completely unrelated note, after recent weeks of stepping up their efforts to filter and remove games with offensive content, Valve has basically turned on a dime to adopt a new policy, which is basically YOLO.
Meh, fuck it.
Yeah, whatever. If you guys want to sell it, just give us our money. I found it really, really interesting that it happens. It really does seem like a change of character, or like just a complete 180 from what they had been doing a couple weeks ago when they were sending out warnings. Several adult game developers, including the Honey Pop Studio guys or guy. I'm really curious exactly what they mean by only filtering or preventing games like obvious trolling from being sold on Steam. Because that seems like a complete cop-out to, well, we're not technically going to tell you a definitive filter that we will use to keep people from selling games on our platform, but there's going to be there are going to be games that we will not allow on Steam. That's what it seems like to me.
It could be their way of being able to still police Steam without being held to as high a standard anymore.
Yeah.
So they could still be trying to filter out offensive content without actually filtering out without having to 100% filter out offensive content.
I mean, I don't remember if this made a podcast a couple months ago, but I was talking about how I was looking around Steam and just found all this random bullshit like photo albums on Steam. Like, is that going to get taken off if it hasn't already? Like, because that seems like the ultimate, like the epitome of things that should not be on Steam. Now, granted, if you were to ask me from like a philosophical standpoint of like what do I think should be filtered or taken off of Steam, I honestly don't know. I kind of feel like if I really think about it on a higher level, I would say maybe nothing should be filtered because you want freedom of speech in all forms. But at the same time, it's like at the very least, maybe it should be restricted to just games and I guess applications, since there's software on Steam now as well. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about this?
I both like it and don't like it all at the same time. Kind of in a sense of, yeah, I like the fact that they are giving a little bit more freedom to more risque type things or trolley type things, but also don't like it because then we're going to get more games like that one thing that ended up on like Steam and the PlayStation 4, that incomplete game made by that one guy. It was like a, oh God, what was that game called?
I feel like you're talking about a lot of games.
Exactly. So it just kind of, it'll make the console / PC gaming worlds a lot closer to the mobile gaming worlds, in a sense of now there's going to be so much more shit to root through rather than solid indie developed games.
Yeah, and with Valve offering the option that people are going to be able to hide games that don't interest them or to a greater degree are offensive or upsetting to them, it's one of those things like, if you can't see it, then it must not be there. But there'll be plenty of like shitty games that will find their way into Valve with a like more lax I guess curation or policing of their content. And I'm okay with Valve being more restrictive about what they're putting on their platform through Steam, because if you really want a game in the day and age of the internet, you should be able to find it somewhere else. Steam is not the only location to find games that have been developed for PC gaming. And so I think it's totally within their scope, and maybe it may be somewhat their responsibility to make sure that their platform is curated to have content that works for everybody and works for a like large consumer base, but doesn't necessarily give up certain standards. Like they can hold the games that they advertise on their platform to a high enough standard that they don't have to sell everything on it. They certainly aren't going to be out of the money by restricting access to some games or taking some games off that are just shit or terrible or offensive or racist, things like that.
But then they have to pay someone to figure out which games those are.
Yeah, but
and they also lose out on
I'm
the
all
sales
about job
of
creation, Cookie.
Racism Simulator 2018.
Yeah.
How to maximize your racism.
I like how they decided to do this right after they got rid of the game where you're an active shooter.
Which one, though? Like Hatred?
Nope. Valve active shooter would be removed regardless of developer. That's a Variety.
The
headline.
game is literally called Active Shooter.
Yes, where you're an active shooter in a school. And Valve was like, nah, you can't have this game. And then a week later, they were like, we're done policing the games people try to put on our thing.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like every year people are pushing the line further and further. A couple years ago, we had the JFK shooter simulator.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. EA press conference that happened on Saturday, excuse me. I've got a few highlights that I wanted to bring up, and if there's anything I miss afterwards, feel free to jump in and we can point those out. Otherwise, also feel free to jump in on any topics I bring in. Okay. So
Run the show.
Sounds good.
first off, No Skate 4.
I'm kidding. I'm not gonna make that go any longer. This is sad. This is obviously very sad for Cookie, but also I was looking forward to maybe playing a skate game that was modernized, and I'll have to wait longer.
I'm gonna look at the good things next, I guess, and then we'll talk about the not so great things in addition to the lack of Skate 4. But Unravel 2, that's a co-op game, and apparently it's out now. That looks pretty interesting, actually. It's if you haven't seen it, it depicts two little yarn-like characters that can either be played by a single player and you just switch between the characters, or cooperatively couch co-op with two players. And it seems like one of the heavy-handed mechanics in that game is utilizing a swing system between the two yarn figures that are attached together. And I'm kind of into it. Like it seems like a fun game to play with a significant other or with a friend
Or a significant friend.
or an insignificant friend.
Or, by yourself, just piggybacking.
So Sea of Solitude also had a new trailer or teaser, and that game so they announced that game in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. I still don't really know what it is, but that was probably the most interesting trailer they had their entire press conference, at least personally speaking. We get to see a lot of the main character, who is kind of like this weird, furry, feathered, dark figure, girl guy, can't tell, with like a backpack. It seems to be something of like an adventure game or narrative, but like on a much larger scale than, say, Inside. Everything is three-dimensional in the nature of your controls, and it seems like there's a lot of obstacles and I guess you could say enemies, organic obstacles in your way as well. But usually I'm not one for people standing on a stage talking about a game, but the spokesperson talking about Sea of Solitude did a good job kind of building up my curiosity and interest for this game.
Yeah, that game looks very interesting. I just watched a trailer for it. I think there was a quote at the bottom of the article I was looking at that when humans get particularly lonely, they can turn into monsters, and that also seems to explain the familiarity and how the main character looks and some of those organic obstacles or monsters in the game. That could be very cool.
Yeah, really, really curious to see some
The
more
art
about
style's
that.
very sleek too.
It seems like a lot of games in general are approaching that whole sort of like less realistic, more
The stylized, almost bright watercolor approach. Watercolor or maybe oil painting. Like there are two very kind of ways to describe it, but I think they're distinctly familiar. You see it in this game. I've seen it in Inside as well as another depiction of that. Dishonored has sort of an oil painting look to everything that it does. Like it's a really pretty way to do graphical design. The Long Dark is kind of similar too.
Yeah, it certainly seems like game or like graphical design in games is becoming less and less realistic, but ever more impressive in how the art all seems to, I guess, like form together a much more cohesive product. I hate to use the word product, but a more cohesive piece of art. I guess that's redundant, but maybe a little closer to my meaning.
yeah, making something beautiful versus more lifelike is, I think, totally a direction that developers are starting to take. And it's great to see because you can make some really visually brilliant things without them necessarily being a super realistic representation where you can see the pores on someone's face. Like, there are other approaches. What else do we got? Another cool, exciting game is Anthem. What do you know about that?
This is maybe where I'm starting to turn a bit to the not so, at least personally speaking, not so interesting or not so positive reporting. But Anthem, we got to see some gameplay as catered as it was to some specific scenes. It seems to look more or less like a tech or robot-based Destiny.
Lizzie's reaction as I was watching the video this morning was, "Is that a new Destiny game?" I was like, pretty much.
Isn't Destiny 2 having underwhelming player base and sales?
Probably. I abandoned that ship a while ago.
Yeah. What a great move to make Anthem then.
I mean, at the time, they probably started doing it they probably started the project for Anthem when Destiny 1 was, having its revival with the Taken King. So at the time, that was before like the loot box exodus and before the I'm trying to think of what else. It just seems like this game would have made a lot more sense 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's fair.
And this current setting that we're in, or situation, is definitely not one that supports Anthem, especially when you think about like what is this game going to offer in terms of single player content, story content, and so forth.
Nothing. Just going to be very hard single player content that they want you to play with multiple people to make it a little bit easier.
Exactly, and it's a question of like what exists between like your combat scenes, between your missions. Like, is there going to be some driving force or substance, some lore that you can dig into? Because it feels like that's something that Destiny 1 lacked, and Destiny 2 I think had to some extent. But for the end game, like what people are ultimately driving towards, they're still going to have a complete lack of narrative direction.
Which is why I kind of hope their thought process of we're designing it in a way that will allow us to have be able to make changes in the world, since, the hub world, it's pulling a Monster Hunter type of thing going on, where you're just in a hub world by yourself, and then when you go out, it's the multiplayer play. So, I guess think more Division then. Yeah, more Division.
But like, I mean, the fact that you say more Division just makes me more concerned, because that's another game that doesn't necessarily have a strong narrative to begin with. And
hey, man, they're going through their revival right now, apparently.
And the revival seems to be completely different from. Oh, you mean the Division, not BioWare,
yes.
Correct?
Yes, the Division.
Okay, but it's just that like BioWare is not a company known for making multiplayer online experiences in general, like aside from the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer and Dragon Age multiplayer, Inquisition multiplayer. Like, this is a company that was more about single player, old school with modern renovation, in like strong narrative storytelling, with the exception of Mass Effect Andromeda and their ridiculous googly eye movement. It's really troubling too, just because, if Anthem does poorly, and it seems like I still am forecasting that there's not like we're not in the type of setting, or we're not in the type of scenario
it's
that
not
Anthem is going to
flourish in
succeed.
this market.
Yeah, what happens to Dragon Age? What happens to, well, Mass Effect might already be dead.
What happens to Mass Effect Andromeda?
Wait, what game? Mass Effect had a new one called Andromeda? What?
Yeah.
I still want to play it. I want to see if they fixed it. I love Mass Effect. It just, so I'm honestly not sure like what the community in general feels about Anthem at this point. If it's a lot of reluctance or whatever the case is, but I can tell you that apparently the gaming community is not very happy about the new Command & Conquer, titled Command & Conquer Rivals.
Ooh, are we talking about the break from the EA press conference to watch two dudes play a mobile game
Yeah.
and shoutcasts about it?
Which, if you look at the reveal trailer of Command and Conquer Rivals on YouTube, last I checked, it was something like less than 1,000 likes and more than 5,000 dislikes. In fact, I'm just going to double check right now. 1.1k likes and 25,000 dislikes.
Yep, it's a mobile game.
And I guess to cap things off, again, it's cool that Respawn is working on something, and that's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It's a single player game in a dark and gritty setting. My only issue is that doesn't this sound kind of familiar to another game that was in development up until a year ago?
Did we ever get anything about that other game that was in development until a year ago besides it was in development?
We got some details, like you were going to play as a smuggler, i.e. like a Han Solo. It was going to be like a single player narrative, also dark and gritty.
Ah, okay. So they just switched out Han Solo for
A Padawan.
Jedi.
A Padawan, not even a Jedi. You're going to play as a surviving Padawan between episodes 3 and 4.
Wait, they said that much about it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely missed that.
Which it could be cool, but it's also, I hear this and I think to myself, like, yeah, okay, it's good that you're working again on a single player story, assumedly story/narrative driven game, but who's to say this isn't going to just get canceled next year as well?
Well, hopefully not. Do you know who's working on it?
Respawn, the makers of Titanfall 2, yes.
That's right. And so that gives me hope. Not that I'm probably going to buy a Star Wars game again for a very long time, but if it turns out to do really well, maybe I'll look into it. I'm excited by the fact that Respawn's getting involved, though.
Think of it this way, man. They bought Visceral Games. They shut down Visceral Games when they weren't happy with their Star Wars game. Then they screwed up Battlefield 2 tremendously with loot boxes. Or, excuse me, not. Is it Battlefield? Oh my God,
Battlefront.
Battlefront. Thank you. They screwed up
Hey,
Battlefront
it's tough.
2.
It's just the last couple letters that change it.
Then they buy Respawn after fucking over Titanfall 2. If this game bombs or if it doesn't meet sales expectations, guess what? We don't have Respawn. That's kind of the way I
That would
foresee
be
these
tragic.
events.
Yeah.
And on the same coin, BioWare, if Anthem doesn't do well, BioWare is probably going to be disbanded as well.
You also forgot to mention they did reveal a little bit more about the oh God, sorry. They did reveal a little bit more about that Battlefield game, Battlefield 5.
Did I forget to or just choose not to because I didn't consider it much of a highlight?
Touche, but you kind of covered every other thing that was happened during the press conference. But they announced that it was going to have that one mode that everyone else is having.
Yeah.
But it's going to be unlike any game that you've ever played. ...
ellipses.
That's like 12 or 15 dots, Neil. It's 12.
I think maybe the best way to sum it up is that they talk about Battlefield 5 not having a premium pass, not having loot boxes, and I ask myself, how is this game going to make you any money then? Are you hoping that your sales up front are going to just be strong enough that you can justify continuing to update the game? Because I think
No, they're gonna do what Anthem said they're gonna do and not have any season passes or loot boxes, but they will have cosmetics that you can just buy and you'll know exactly what you're buying.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's going to work. I think EA is in a rough spot, and they're not doing the things that they could just do to make themselves some easy free money, like make a Skate 4.
Yep.
Like Skate 4 could be terrible, and they'd still probably sell a couple million copies.
Sell like gangbusters, because if it's anything like Skate 3, shit, they could just remaster Skate 3 and I'd be fine with this, please.
I think that just about does it
We're
for
closing
EA.
out the episode.
Yep. If you have comments, questions, whatever, you can contact us at podcast@fancyramen.com.
And if you like what you're hearing, don't be afraid to subscribe. And if you want some more loot boxes from EA and or from Fancy Ramen, also keep subscribing.
Yeah, just continually subscribe.
Thanks.
Also, get your friends subscribing by telling them about the podcast so they can also enjoy the dulcet tones of our voices as we talk about all things gaming and plenty of other things non-gaming.
Whoops.
I'm Neil.
Scoop, whoop, poop.
That's
I'm Scott.
That's Scoot, and that's Whoop.
Poopity scoop. I'm Cookie. Swoopity coop.
See you next time.
Peace.